Raider Nation, what's going on? It's Mitchell Rentz here, host of the Raiders Reporting. Coming up on today's show, we got some notes from some coaches that spoke to the media today. Remember, Raiders mandatory minicamp gets underway June 11th, June 13th. We also got some takeaways from players that spoke. Mad Max, Jakobi Meyers, Nate Hobbs. Got some characters on this team. And then basically the Spark Notes version of some of the practice news that we just heard today. A lot of injury updates as well around Davante Adams, Jackson Powers-Johnson, Colton Miller. I know that it's June, but this is actually probably one of the most important weeks in the entire offseason. You got mandatory minicamp practice today, tomorrow, and then on Thursday. To make sure that you don't miss anything, we're going to be providing updates around the silver and black. Hit that subscribe button and turn on those notifications because this is a very important week during the offseason. If you don't know some of the mandatory minicamp news notes, like to know, if you will, you're allowed 10 hours a day maximum. You're allowed 24 hours over that 3-day stretch. The Raiders had like their media day, meet and greet day. It's kind of like that first day of school on Monday. Today was their first actual day of practice. Physicals, again, were on Monday. You're allowed 2 practices totaling 3.5 hours on field per day. The second practice, which is going to be for the Raiders June 12th, Wednesday, is going to be limited to walkthrough activities only, and then you get back into Thursday. You ramp it up a little bit, but this is your opportunity for players, for coaches to meet each other, kind of get it going, and then, yeah, you got a little bit of a time off, but like for a team like the Raiders who have $34.1 million, this is also very important because you want to be able to figure out what you got in certain guys. That way you can know what you're going to do with that cap space by training camp to see if you're going to go out and try to sign anybody else. So first thing we're going to get into is some takeaways from Raiders offensive coach Scott Turner. It helps a lot with the passing game. He said that Bowers and Mayer is going to be a huge advantage for the Las Vegas Raiders because he knows how difficult it is for opposing coordinators to scheme against 12 personnel, which 12 personnel is one of the things that we hear time and time again when we talk about Luke Getsy, this Raiders offense, and the amount of studying that it's being required from not only players, but also the coaches with 12 personnel and what exactly it means and how it's going to look differently for all these different people. Like, it is something that I do think that is going to catch a lot of people off guard in the NFL. And, you know, they kind of mentioned it's a copycat league. And when you got Bowers, you got Mayer, and don't sleep on Harrison Bryant either. This staff has got a lot to learn, and they're going to have to ramp it up, especially in an interesting quarterback battle, which kind of takes me to my next spot here of what Scott Turner talked about. Kind of talked about how the staff has to learn this Getsy offense where, you know, a lot of the times it's just focused on how can Gardner do it? Can AOC learn it? What does it look like? This staff also has to learn it, and then they have to be able to teach it, which is one of the things that Turner spoke about today. He also talked about how he's a UNLV grad, that he loves being in Las Vegas, and, you know, it makes me think that the Raiders, a lot of the coaches on the offensive side of the football last year are no longer here. One of the things that the Raiders were really looking for is football players that love football and can really add to this, like, locker room feel what they're trying to do. I'm wondering if because of this mentality that Turner brought is the reason why they ended up keeping him. And then the next thing that Turner said, and this is going to be a very common thing of some of the players, what they talked about today, there is no indication of who's leading this QB battle between Aidan and between Gardner Minshew. But if there's one thing that I gathered from today is there is a lot of trust. And when they talk about quarterbacks, Aidan's name is the one that continuously gets brought up, which based off of what I heard today, I'm not saying that somebody told me something, but just based off people's words and based off people's actions, I think that Aidan O'Connell might be leading this quarterback battle. Again, that's just my gut feeling based off of what we heard today. Nothing was actually said, though. It's just a gut feeling. You know what? My gut tells me that if you stink, it's going to be a rough life for you. You're probably going to be a little bit lonely, might even be a little bit single. Shout out to today's sponsor, Mando. And if you haven't already, use code CHAT at shopmando.com. Hey there, baseball fans. Do you hate foul balls, Chugs? I don't know about you. I hate foul balls. You know the kind, no matter how hard you scrub them in the shower, they still smell like last week's nacho cheese? Well, ditch the soap and step up to the plate with Mando Whole Body Deodorant. Developed by a doctor, this game-changing formula is safe for your entire body. Knockout odor like a champ. Now, I do think we have this awesome special offer. New customers get $5 off Mando's best-selling starter pack with code CHAT at shopmando.com. I like Mando because you can use it literally everywhere. So I was just at a bachelor party this past weekend, and, you know, you're eating a lot, you're drinking a lot, you're hanging out with your friends, and you're going to sweat, especially with the group of guys I was with. There was a lot of sweating going on. But, like, you also don't want to stink when you go out. You're trying to look your best, so I was able to have my full body deodorant in a compact little case. Was able to use it on the feet, under the arms, save me a little bit of space. I'm not going to lie. I flew Frontier, so I had to only take my backpack. So the fact that I was able to take Mando's deodorant, one little tube of it, was ready to rock and roll the entire time. And I think the fact that it's also clinically proven to control body odor better than a shower with soap alone. You got 12 hours after a shower. The average man's Grundle odor level was a 5 out of 10. With Mando, the average Grundle odor level is a 0 out of 10. I don't know how many people like Grundle odor. I know I'm not one of them. Mando Starter Pack is perfect for new customers. It comes with a solid stick deodorant, cream tube deodorant, 2 free products of your choice, like mini body wash and deodorant wipes if you need a better comparison, and free shipping. Luckily, I got a discount code to help you get hooked on my favorite smelling whole body deodorant on the market. New customers get $5 off a starter pack with our exclusive code. That equates to over 40% off your starter pack. Use code CHAT at shopmando.com. If you don't know how to spell it, it's SHOPMANDO.com. Shout out to them for sponsoring the Raiders Report. All right, one of my favorite coaches here, and definitely uses Mando, Rob Leonard, Raiders defensive line coach. He said that this is one of the best defensive lines that he's ever coached in 12 years. Like, that's a high praise thing, and I think that the type of coach that the Raiders have they are people that speak the God-honest truth. They don't just blow smoke. He also said that the defensive line is going to set the tone, and he didn't really say specifically, like, just for the defense, and maybe he was just speaking for the defense. There's a part of me, though, that thinks the amount of times Rob Leonard mentioned Maxx Crosby, he didn't say Max, didn't say Crosby, but he mentioned 98 over and over and over again. The D-line's going to set the tone for the entire team, and if they're bringing it, it's going to be a hell of a football game. He also then was talking about Tyree Wilson, which doesn't surprise me, and said that Tyree, still got a lot of learning to do, but, like, just kept mentioning the standard and how Tyree now finally seems like he's starting to wrap his mind around the standard of this is what it takes to be great in the NFL. This is what it takes to be a Raider. If you do both of those things, you can turn out to be like number 98. Talked about Malcolm Koonce and how he's grown tremendously, and this is a second example this offseason that you've heard one of the Raiders defensive coaches talk about the growth of a player like Malcolm Koonce, not only on the field, but as a leader in that locker room. Byron Young said that he's having a solid offseason, which this is really big for the third-round pick out of Alabama, 74th overall. You got a brand-new regime, which a lot of times means, like, different moving parts. And you got Matthew Butler, Nesta Jade Silvera. They brought back a dude like Marquand McCall. You have 2 UDFAs, and as far as I'm concerned, like, they showed Byron Young and this entire defensive tackle team what they thought of them by going out and re-signing Adam Butler, re-signing John Jenkins, and going out and paying Christian Wilkins $27.5 million per year. Big opportunity for Byron Young in front of him, which brings me to this question here. Give me a yes or give me a no. Will Byron Young make the Raiders' 53-man roster? And if you're watching this video live, luckily for you, I'm going to be talking about a 53-man roster. If you're not watching this live, well, hey, this video is going to be dropping a little bit later on the Raiders Report. Just gives you another opportunity to hit subscribe and get some of that extra content in the offseason. Give me a yes, give me a no. Will Byron Young make the Raiders' 53-man roster? All right, let's now go to Edgar Bennett, the Raiders wide receiver coach, and he also spoke to the media today, said that the receiver room is much deeper than expected, and I'm going to talk to you guys about somebody that was playing receiver today. It's on the defensive side of the football, kind of wild. Talked about Tre Tucker, said that he's got the right mindset, and he's really starting to, come into his own. It's still really difficult to do that as a player, but you could tell that he was very confident in Tre Tucker as a receiver, not so much just a special teamer. Jakobi Meyers is a leader on and off the field, really funny guy. We'll talk about some of the stuff that he spoke to the media about today, but really a good tone setter, likes to be a solid run blocker, might not put up these big numbers behind Davante Adams, but still one of the better receivers in this league. Talked about how Brock Bowers just loves football, more examples of that, how he's explosive, talked about the 12 personnel. He does expect Michael Gallup to be able to contribute, talked about his route tree, talked about the tape that he has. I'm just genuinely curious how much he's actually seen Michael Gallup play, though he did practice today. Then he was asked about Tulu Griffin. He was also asked about Michael Gallup. I don't know if he just forgot about Tulu Griffin, UDFA, but he answered the Gallup question and he totally dodged the Tulu question, which made me wonder, does he not think very highly of the UDFA? Coming up next here, though, let's get into some Raiders practice notes. We'll talk about some of the things that Maxx Crosby said, Nate Hobbs said today. I got some notes also on some of the players that shined at practice, and then one dude that might be playing both sides of the football. I don't really know. Maxx Crosby spoke to the media, and anytime you have Max, everybody listens, and that was a very, very evident thing. Some of the things that I wrote down, he called Aidan O'Connell a leader, which another example. If Maxx Crosby's calling Aidan a leader, and he mentions him in the same breath as a lot of the other captains on the team, that's a really big thing for me. I'm not going to lie to y'all. Said that Tyree Wilson's really starting to come along. Spoke about how all the guys on this team really love football. And then the other thing that he said was his great connection with Adam Butler and just how he was like one of his guys. He was one of his dogs. And I do think it's one of the things that led to Butler getting re-signed this offseason. Nate Hobbs spoke to the media, said that he thought Jakobi Bennett is confident, doesn't really like that people think that he's an unconfident player right now. Said that he's ready for any challenge wherever they want to put him on the football field. Spoke about Aidan O'Connell impressing him yet again. My favorite quote that Hobbs said is, the players trust Antonio Pierce because Antonio Pierce trusts them, which, is a really big thing for this football team. I think it's a really big thing for this fan base because you didn't trust Josh McDaniels. And then he said, he can't believe how amazing of a player Wilkins is, how he's 300 pounds and he's like the first guy off the line. Jakobi Meyers, my biggest note on him was he made me laugh the entire time. He was just giving funny answers. Somebody asked him, all right, if they go to 18 games, what does that mean? He's like, I guess I'm showing up because nobody's taking my money from me. Also, Meyers said, impressed by Aidan O'Connell. No, I did not hear Gardner Minshew's name mentioned once today, but by coaches and players, I heard it at least 4 to 5 times, so that's got to be something. And then he also said that it's been fun, just trying to learn a brand new offense with Luke Getsy. Let's now get into some more notes that happened today at practice. I know there was a lot of people wondering, is Davante Adams okay? He did end up practicing today. He did not practice a single time during Raiders OTAs, which are not mandatory, but it's mandatory minicamp. Adams was still at least in the building. So it was good to see him practice today. This one made me the most happy. Jackson Powers Johnson, he practiced today. So last week before I went to my buddy's bachelor party, I was told that JPJ was dealing with a little bit of a hamstring injury. This kind of proved that he was just taking it easy at OTAs, and now he's out there practicing, and he seems fired up and happy to be out there. Colton Miller did not participate today in practice, though he was out there for warm-ups, and I believe 88 players out of the Raiders, 91 in total, all practiced today. And it's a report coming in from Tashawn Reed, who, yes, said 88 players were present today for first day of Raiders mandatory minicamp. The 3 non-participants, Colton Miller, who you can see is rehabbing from offseason shoulder surgery, so still dealing with a little bit of a shoulder problem there. And then also Matthew Butler, which that's not a good sign for Butler. And Darian Butler's been battling ACL, MCL. He's got a lot of knee issues. And I think if he wasn't an ASU grad, the writing would have probably already be on the wall. Then, yeah, a lot of Butlers. Christian Wilkins looks great. I didn't realize you put that title in there. F&A Chugs. No, but Christian Wilkins looked great today. He said that Maxx Crosby talked about how great this defensive line is because of how the defensive tackle room is going to get better, the coaching staff. I'm telling you right now, people do not understand how good Christian Wilkins is going to be. Jack Jones, this might be the most amazing and mind-blowing thing, worked with the wide receivers today. And I'll say this because Chugs and I were talking about it before the show went live. We don't really like the idea of Jack Jones playing receiver. Now, I get it. He played receiver in high school. He had over 1,500 yards. I think I saw he had 106 catches, something like that. But if the Raiders signed another corner and you were confident in your cornerback room, I'd be at least all right. But the Raiders wide receiver room might be their most stacked position group on their entire team. And now you're going to have your top outside corner go out there and play receiver. Jones probably loved it. He was probably fired up about it. And that's the competitive nature. I get it. But, we don't need help at receiver. We need help at corner. And I'm telling you this right now, if I would have heard a report that Jack Jones got hurt at Raiders practice during wide receiver drills, I would be very upset. It's fun, it's competitive, but I'm going to be honest, I don't love the idea of him working with the receivers. Let's get him in the cornerback room until our cornerback room gets a little bit stronger here. Another thing that I thought was very interesting, Dylan Laube working with the ones today in passing situations. So if there was a situation that involved pass blocking or, where the running back's going to catch the football, Laube was somebody in there working with the ones, and it just tells me yet again, this coaching staff is fired up about him. He continued to impress at OTAs. This tells me he's already working his way up the depth chart. For him to be working with the ones on days that Zamir White, Alexander Madison, and Amir Abdullah are all practicing, if you got a PPR fantasy league, get Dylan Laube on your team. I think he's going to be a sleeper guy to keep in mind. Now, shout out to all y'all for tuning in to the Raiders Report. Finally got my Screaming Chicken jersey on as well. If you haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Make sure those notifications are turned on. And if you're watching this live right now, y'all ready to turn up because we're here to have a good time.